Alright my friends, welcome to video lesson number 6. In this lesson we're going to be focusing on creating a simple lower third with a type tool in Premiere. So let's get started. You can see here we're using a fully built out interview project with Ed Choi. And I think what I'm going to do is place the lower third in this area here, where you can see I've got convenient space to ID our interview subject in between a transitional montage and some supporting B-roll over here. We've got the montage, B-roll, and this hole in the middle where we've got just Ed on screen. So what I'm going to do is grab the type tool here, and you can see I've got my safe margins on screen. If I go to the wrench here and go down to safe margins, I can bring those delineations up to make sure that my text is properly located on screen. So let's talk about these for a second. We've got two lines here. The inside line is called title safe. The outside line is called action safe. So all text on screen should be located inside this inside title safe line. And then important movement by individuals or objects on screen should be located inside the outside line here, known as action safe. Okay, so we're concerned with title safe here right now. So I'm just going to, with the type tool, click on screen and begin to type our lower third identification. Edward Choi, return, and he is a licensed acupuncturist. Two difficult words to spell. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is properly locate this text on screen. So I'm going to grab my selection tool, and you can see that the red editing box that was around my text has now turned into a blue placement and sizing box, indicating that I can just grab this text and move it wherever I want to on screen. And I'm going to locate it in the lower left corner here. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want this text element and the things I'm going to add to it to sort of balance the subject on screen. So we've got the subject over here on the right, and I'm locating the ID, the lower third, on the left, so I'm creating more of a balance on screen rather than putting it over on the same side with the subject. Okay, so there are a couple places where you can actually control the text. One is the effect controls. And if you go down to the text area here, you can see this is the element that we've put on screen here. Okay, and there are a number of controls available to you. You can alter the font, the size, fill, stroke, shadow, and transform with keyframes if you want to do some movement. So what I'm going to do is change the size of Ed's title here so that his name stands out a little more than the title does. So I'm going to go back to the type tool and highlight licensed acupuncturist, and I'm going to change the size of that with this slider. I'm going to go down to, I don't know, 64 looks good. Okay, so we'll go back to the selection tool and relocate this so it's right in the corner inside title safe. Okay, so the next thing I'd like to do is place a box behind this text to help it to stand out. We've got somewhat of a busy background here, and I'd like the text to have something behind it to make it a little more easily readable. So within the effect controls, I do not have the ability to draw a box behind this text. But there is another panel, a new panel in Premiere, that will allow me to do that. So if I go to Window and down to Essential Graphics, it brings this new panel on screen. And it kind of places it over here to the right. When you launch it, it may actually end up floating. Regardless, what I want to do is dock this panel over here next to the effect controls. So I'm going to grab the words Essential Graphics and drag the panel over till I get this thin purple bar along where it says effect controls, and release. And now my Essential Graphics panel is right next to my effect controls. Resize this window here. And I'm going to go to the Edit tab inside Essential Graphics. And you can see, here is my text layer right here. I can turn it on and off. And I have many of the same controls that I have inside the effect controls that have to do with the text. But I also have a very important additional control. This right here, the new layer icon. I'm going to click on that and go down to rectangle. And when I do that, it pops a box on screen. And I'm going to take the box and I'm going to put it behind my text. But oh look, it's on top of it. And that's because the new shape layer I've created here is actually on top of the text layer. So I'm going to click, hold, and drag that layer down below my text layer. And you can see now the box moves behind the text. All right. So now that I have my text properly located inside Title Safe, I'm going to go to the wrench and turn off my safe margins to make my box alignment here a little bit easier. So I'm going to grab the right side of the box, drag it out, and locate it nicely behind my text. Now let's say I wanted to change the color of the box. Well, with the box selected, I would go over here to Fill, click on that, and I get a color picker. And I can use the eyedropper here to take a sample of the background. I could make it more brown. I could make it similar to the wall. You can see there. But I actually like this green that I've already got, so I'm going to stick with that. Okay, so now that we have the text and box element constructed, I want to place it in the timeline. So by default, you can see if I select and hit my / key that the graphic element is just about 5 seconds long. Option X to remove my in and out. And I'd like to align this element in the timeline so that a particular swell in the music cues its entry. Okay, so I'm going to solo the music here, and you can hear where there's a little bit of a cymbal swell in the music. Just listen. Right there. That's what I want to use to cue the entry of this lower third element. So let's locate that. Right there. Okay, so I'm going to line this up with that point in time, and I'm going to use Simple Dissolve to bring in and take out my lower third. So with the lower third selected, I'm going to use the Shift-D keyboard shortcut to bring in my default transitions on this lower third. There we go. And you can see I've got a 1 second dissolve on either end. So let's check this out in context with everything turned on.
In conjunction with herbs and acupuncture together, we could really help the patient in many different scenarios, but...
Nice, I think that works really well. Okay, so what I'd also like to do is use this lower third one more time, further down in the timeline. So the great thing is I can just copy this. So if I select the lower third and then hold down the Option key and click one more time and drag, I'm going to create a copy and I'm going to move it down here in the timeline. You can see I've still got my original and now my new copy down here. Let's zoom in on this area. And I think what I'd like to do is cut straight to this lower third from this shot here. So I don't need this cross dissolve on the front end. And I'm going to play through and see how this works to make sure that the lower third is on screen long enough to make it readable. So let's check this out.
Patients could benefit from acupuncture, definitely. Pain is the problem.
I think that works. maybe we could give just a few more frames, another half second or so, to give it a little more read time on screen. One more time.
Patients could benefit from acupuncture, definitely. Pain is the prominent.
Nice, I think that works very well. Okay, so you can see, pretty simple to create a basic lower third in Premiere using the Type tool. All right, so that about does it for video lesson number 6, my friends. I'll see you again for video lesson number 7.